r/AskReddit, what do you think would happen if half the world population suddenly died? I'll have to clock into work early to cover half a dead department's workload. Thanos, is that you? It's worth noting that this has already happened. During the Black Plague, half of Europe died. In some places the losses APPROC'd 50%. The effects were largely positive. The remaining population was able to take advantage of the freed resources, and this contributed to the end of the Dark Ages. Assuming worldwide and randomly, no bias or nothing, it would cause mass panic for the public. Countries would assume they are being waged war on for a bit but quickly realize it's not just them. News outlets, social media, general population would go crazy, and people also trying to locate how much of their own families are gone if they're missing, fled, or dead. Planes, cars, trucks would start crashing, cargo boats would need to be taken control over immediately by staff on the boat. Funerals would be making bank, certain religions might assume some apocalypse and cause even more panic. Depends on what half of the population died. If a significant portion of the population that contribute to vital functions of society that require niche and hard to obtain skills had died, then I think anarchy may arise. Other half will remain. Agriculture, a lot more people would have to get their hands dirty. Economic collapse, and then a rejigging of basically everything, including borders. It would be ugly, and the bad guys would have a head start. The leftovers. If it happens, let me be one of the ones who vanishes. Which half? It'll be some tough couple of years, but the population would bounce back in no time. This planet may have a saving grace to last a little bit longer before the next mass extinction event. Cleaner water and air. Higher per capita income. It would be a workers' market similar to Europe after the plague. I call it mercy, perfectly balanced as all things should be. https://www.youtube.com/watch v=rbrd_3vmc3c. The number one thing that will happen is that people will not want to work. People will start looting very quickly and society will collapse. Within a year, people will need to start hunting and foraging because no one's there to tend to agriculture stuff. Remaining doctors will not want to work. People will separate into warring tribes and eventually go extinct because humans are greedy in nature. Also, 99% of the population lack basic survival skills nowadays. Thanos floating a white paper, trying to convince the Avengers in our universe this is what the people want. Rent would go down. Thanos would do the Fortnite default dance. Property prices would finally drop. I'd still be ugly. 1-800-000-000/2 = 4 000-000-000-2. 10% commit suicide due to losing their kid/wife/husband = 3 600 000-000 3. Positions of power open up and many fight for them. 5% die in wars = 3 420 000 000 4. The complete or partial infrastructure for food and electricity breaks down. 20% die of starvation = 2 736 000 000 5. A few people gain a lot of power and enslave society with brutality and kill 20% within the following years = 2 188 800 00 within 5 years. Take my word for it. More ice cream for me, yay. I like how we all assume we'd live. Be pissed it wasn't me and now I gotta deal with this hell which is worse than the burning hot one I'm pretty sure. Humans adapt to various climates. Caucasians living in Asia will get sunburn, catch local diseases especially intestinal illnesses like drinking the water or eating non-cooked foods. Land is never sterile. We'd have more natural resources, less crime. A lot of businesses and services would collapse or go unavailable for a good while. It is hard as is to find people that actually want to work. Now, imagine losing those that are driving these businesses, half of the people that want to work and the people that consume these products. It would be chaos. Also, trying to explain why near 4 billion people died, would cause panic like no other. No one would want to go out, if the government still exists. If we didn't lose these people, they would be scrambling to bring some sort of peace, but also figure out what is going on, shutdowns, just chaos. Everyone of reproductive age? Or maybe just everyone biologically female? The world would be a much safer place for the cockroaches and moss in 70 years or so. Well, and Keith Richards. Depends, men or women. It would depend on what half of the world population died. More for the rest that survived. Climate change would be solved. Depends, which half? Which half? At random, it would be disastrous. Some essential people lost without contingencies could have a catastrophic domino effect. Housing prices might drop by 2%. Finally some air. It'd be pretty smelly for a while. Mother Nature can breathe a little. That means there is a 50/50th chance that I will die. Knowing my luck, I'll die. Graveyard keeper would be a very well-paid job. And on the whole, it was a very good year. For the Undertaker. I would think Thanos snapped. Marvel already ran this thought experiment. It's looting time. It depends on which half. Could finally afford a house. There would be a lot less Indians and Chinese. The animal world rejoices. IRL endgame. This is highly dependent on the details. Got me thinking, which half? The older half would probably be the least detrimental. The younger half would be catastrophic. Either the female or male half would literally end humanity. The northern, southern, eastern, or western half would all have massive, interesting effects on geopolitics. How about the most average half? Leaving the outliers on both sides of some metric. That's a wild thought. Only the smartest and thickest people left LOL. At least a quarter more would die as a result of this, planes flying without both pilots, passengers of driverless cars, people unable to overcome the grief, members of oppressed minorities that got even smaller. This would be a terrible timeline. In the modern era we are talking societal collapse. 50% die but a large number would then die from knock-on effects. Obvious one is vehicles crashing in the immediate, but you are also looking at debilitating issues with food supply, health systems, environmental disasters as oil pumping, nuclear power plants etc. all suddenly lack people supervising and taking a long time to get people there. How many companies, organizations, and governments just disappear as most who work it disappear with no one to replace? The world would look very different and it would take a very long time to recover. Someone would go back in time and take the time stones to bring back the population. Then sales of shovels and coffins would go through the roof. Plus, the death registration people would be overworked. Priests would die from overwork with all the extra church services. Is this a veiled question about Gaza endgame? A Great Depression. The other half would have more space. Next. I imagine a big smiling sun and rainbow while people of all color and creed link hands and dance happily. I mean, after an appropriate mourning period. The plague and even more deaths. Twitter would actually be readable. Half of the other half would die shortly after that because they were directly dependent on those who died. There would be a secondary wave of even more deaths from suicide, accidents, and normal illnesses that there is no longer an adequate system in place to respond to and treat. One of the best chapters in Stephen King's The Stand was like 21 off stories of people who survived the plague and then died in all sorts of other ways. Considering about 40% of the world population is in 2 countries, I think it may be chaos there. Shorter line/traffic. If it's random, well, it would suck and be the biggest story in the known history of mankind, but we'd get over it and it might even be beneficial for the planet in the long run. But if it were, say, all the women, then we'd be fucked. Chaos in the short term, increased prosperity for the survivors in the longer term. I'm pretty sure I would still have to go to work. The air would be filled with a disease-ridden miasma for a while. It would get really stinky after a few days. Housing prices would drop. It would be a hell of a job dealing with all the corpses, first. Funeral homes and cemeteries would be overrun, so cremations and urns would likely receive a new popularity. Some families, to save money, would probably cremate several relatives and put them in the same grave, with several names listed on the headstone. At least a few people would die. It would be very helpful in ways people won't or can't comprehend. I hope rentals would be dropping. Societal collapse, depending on who the axe falls. Depends on which half. Oh shit, another pandemic already, get some toilet paper now. This is why Thanos must never be allowed to possess all the Infinity Stones. Celebration. Way more food and water for us. A lot of graveyards. Mother Earth would blossom. Well, it means Thanos has a son none of us knew about. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you have enjoyed this video and subscribe to never miss an upload.